What's up? It's Ricky Williams. Check me out on the Bootleg Kev Podcast.
Bootleg Kev Podcast, man. Very excited about our guest today. We have got the legend, Heisman Trophy winner, fantasy football god. By the way, when you bounced back, I think it was 2009.
Yep.
Oh man, I picked you up off waivers. It was going fucking crazy. Ricky Williams is here. Welcome, man.
2009.
I remember that year very specifically because it was the first year I ever played fantasy, and I picked you up off waivers. And that was the year that the Wildcat was going crazy. It was like Ronnie Brown and you.
It was a year after, and Ronnie got hurt. So I was having a pretty good year, and then Ronnie went down towards the end of the year, and I got a chance to start. And my first start was Thursday night against the Panthers.
Bro,
I think I scored three
scored
3 touchdowns that game, and I ran for over 100 yards, and I think I went 3 straight 100-yard games.
I remember. Yeah. It's crazy because I remember as a kid. I was never ever as a kid. I never was big into college football, but I remember you because you were like a cultural phenom when you were at Texas. Like you won the Heisman Trophy, and I specifically remember that Sports Illustrated cover when you went to the NFL. It was you and Mike Ditka. Yep. And I remember like that. Just like iconic moment that I always remember as a kid. Like, You had such a crazy year or crazy career, but with where the NFL has moved when it comes to testing weed, do you feel like you kind of had to take you kind of took a lot of bullets for everybody when it came to the weed shit?
I mean that wasn't the plan, but I think looking back, I did, and only because I was really the first person to tell the truth about it, because. I mean, it was strange when I got in trouble for smoking. I wasn't even a real smoker. It was just bad timing.
Right.
But there were dudes on the team that were real smokers, and but nobody knew. And for me, because I was one of the top players, and because it was made public, and then when I was put on the spot, I didn't lie about it. It became a story, and it was funny. What I've realized is it gave people, especially back then, this is, not now in California, back then, it gave people an excuse to say weed or to say marijuana, or to give people an excuse to talk about it. Right. And so you just started seeing people having more conversations of something that was kept, we don't talk about this, this.
Yeah.
Now everybody was talking about it. And I think that's really what's helped, is that it just started the conversation.
Yeah, I think, back then, we all remember weed was in the same conversation as people who be doing cocaine, or like just the idea of smoking weed and being labeled a troublemaker is like crazy. You know what I mean? Did you find that, because back when you were in the NFL, bro, when you first got drafted, concussions weren't a thing. I'm sure, taking as many shots to get you out on the field was very normalized. Putting you on as many painkillers was very normalized. We weren't as aware of, the addictive effects of all these things. And weed to me is like the anti-inflammatory that's like, for any sport, but really for football, it should be pushed to the players.
I mean, that's what I believe from my own experience of being an NFL player, not just playing myself, but also being around other guys and seeing what happens to the guys that, they live off taking shots and drinking beer with their Vicodin. That's their pain regimen. And we know what that does to people over a long period of time. Or people that, we used to have to take these, like Indocin is what they are called. And we used to have to take them the night before practice.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't take it, you went out to practice and you felt like you were 85 years old. But if you took
it was called Indocin?
Indocin. It's an NSAID. It's like just a really strong ibuprofen. And if we took it, if you didn't take it, you feel like 85. If you took it, you feel like you're 12 years old.
Was this something that was is still around?
Yeah, they give it out. So it's standard. When you get into the NFL, the first time
you know
go
about
to the
this
doctor,
medicine.
Yeah, you get everybody know, or the Toradol shot.
Right.
Everybody in the NFL knows about this because it's a lifesaver. And that's what was the norm. And for me, I remember one day I was sitting in the training room and I was seeing guys come in one by one to get their Toradol shot. And I was thinking, if we're doing this for our whole careers, we're having to get shots, what is this going to do to our bodies? And then I kind of took a challenge on to myself. I said, I want to see how long I can go in the season without having to do that. And I started smoking a little bit. And I was in the drug program, so I had to like measure it out. You know, I could take 2 hits the night, you know, the day after I got tested and still be fine. And so I found that worked. I did a little extra stretching, you know, just was more in touch with my body, and I didn't have to take those medicines. And so I learned from myself that cannabis was better for me than the
How long did you go the whole year without having to take one of those shots?
I had to take one in the second to last game of the season, but that was it.
What year was that?
This was 2003 when I led the NFL in carries. I carried the ball almost 400 times.
That's crazy, man. It's crazy when you look at your stats, right? And I believe you're like around top 30 in rushing. Like, to think like what your stats would have been had none of this bullshit happened. Had you not had to have gone and played in Canada for a year, like, you know, like it's crazy because in 2009, we're talking about 2009, like people counted you out by then.
Yeah.
Especially in running back years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like this guy bounced back. And do you ever have any regret about how things played out?
You know, the main thing for me, I think reason I don't have any regrets is because I got over that 10,000 yard mark. That was something that was important for me to say, okay, that my time playing football on the field in the NFL wasn't wasted because I accomplished something.
It was productive.
And yeah, and I did it in 11 seasons, and one of those seasons only lasted a quarter because I tore my pec. So essentially, I almost averaged 1,000 yards a season. And considering I didn't start for half my career, and considering I was out for a year, then back in, then out for a year, then back in, then out for a year and back in, that I feel like I did it, and I did it my way. And so I don't have any regrets.
When you got drafted to the Saints, what that season, who was the quarterback? Is Jake Delhomme and?
Well, yeah. Wow, Jake Delhomme came on. Wasn't he
end. He was
a third string guy.
Yeah,
and he just came.
Before we knew him with the Panthers. Exactly, and he went to the Super Bowl.
Exactly. He came in against the Cowboys and beat a playoff bound Cowboys team. And that was really kind of his coming out party.
That year, who were you hoping to get drafted to?
The Browns.
This is like was that the first year the Browns were back?
That was the first year they were back.
And would they take Tim Couch?
They took Tim Couch.
So how'd that fucking end
so
up?
Exactly. so the first thing is I wanted to be the first player because I thought I deserved it. 2,
you were the best player in the draft.
And 2, And 2, I felt like just who I was and the way I played the game, it just fit well.
Cleveland. Like it's a grimy town. Like they would appreciate.
Exactly.
Like Jim Brown was there.
Exactly. That was what I was hoping for. It didn't work out. And then my next was Indy because I thought it would have been cool to play with Peyton.
Yeah.
No. My next was Philly, and because
who was the quarterback of Philly? It wasn't McNabb, was it?
That's who they drafted.
Oh, so it was that year. So they drafted McNabb that year.
He was number 2 that year. So that was my second choice because Andy Reid. I just love the West Coast offense. I think I'm the type.
And it seems like you were right. He's been onto something, huh?
Yeah, exactly. I love that offense. And then third was Indy, played with Peyton. And I got skipped past all those and ended up in New Orleans.
We don't remember because if there's a lot of recent football fans who think the Saints are this perennial powerhouse.
I know.
And when I was a kid, they were the worst. I always thought of the Saints and the Bucks as the shittiest teams. When I was a little kid. This is before the Bucks had early 90s, mid 90s Bucks were not good. Before Tony Dungy got there,
yeah.
I always just thought the Bucks and the fucking Saints like trash. So you go to the Saints. Mike Ditka, he seems like I've seen some of his interviews of like recently. He seems like not the best, like funnest guy to play with or play for rather. How was your guys' dynamic?
So he that seems like an act, but it's exactly the opposite, you know, because there are some coaches who never played, you know, and so I think sometimes they treat us like we're on a Madden game or we're chess pieces, but the coaches that played, you know,
he's a real football guy.
Yeah, they've been there, and so he's a hard ass on the outside, but he's the most amazing, like coolest coach ever to play for because he's been there before. You know, so
he relates.
Yeah, so you know, our first preseason game, my rookie year, we played in Miami, and we were in La Crosse, Wisconsin, for our training camp. And so we played in Miami, and then we flew back, and curfew was at 2:00. Right. But we got in at like 1, and so we only had like 20 minutes at the bar. So everyone ran to the bar, and Ditka was in the bar too. And he looked at his watch, and he said, "Curfew is moved back to 4 a.m."
So he was probably hammered as well.
Yeah, of course he was.
Yeah,
but that's what I mean. He was one of us, and so the guys would go to war. They go to war for him.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's interesting to think. Like when you went there, did it feel like there was you always hear about places have winning cultures, like places have losing cultures. We hear New England and Pittsburgh, certain franchises we always hear have that culture where things are expected, and then we hear about the opposite end, right? Philly right now, like the Texans right now.
Yes. Yeah.
When you got to New Orleans, did you feel like it was a losing culture?
Yes, it felt like a losing culture, and I'll tell you why. Because the winning cultures, and I think the best example were the Patriots with Tom Brady, is because there is a certain standard, and everyone fit that. It was about that standard. It wasn't about one player. It was about the standard.
It's like they draft players to fit what they do, not who's best, not who's the name.
Exactly. Yeah. In New Orleans, when I got there, we had a lot of really good players. We had a lot of really good athletes, and especially that first year.
Who was your guys' wide receivers that year?
Yeah, we didn't have that many good receivers.
Okay.
Eddie Kennison, Andre Hastings.
No idea.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Okay.
Keith Poole.
I remember him.
Yeah, Keith Poole.
Played for
Yeah. So
Sun Devils.
But but those guys could fly, right? So we had athletes, but we didn't have a team,
right?
And so then when I came in, it wasn't like, let's rally around this rookie and maybe we can get to the playoffs. It was like, who does this guy think he is? He's got to prove himself, and that's part of it. But it just wasn't that welcoming environment. But in converse, when I got traded to the Dolphins, they'd been to the playoffs like for the past 12 years. I mean, it stopped when I got there, but it was a winning environment. And when I got there, it was that feeling of, okay.
Chad Pennington was still there when you got there?
It was Jay Fiedler.
Jay Feely.
It was right at
Fiedler. Jay Feely is a kicker for the Cardinals.
It was right after Marino retired, and then they brought Jay in.
Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me what happened with the running back in football, because it went from being the running back was the most popular player when I was growing up. There's Barry Sanders and Emmitt Smith and Terrell Davis and all these guys were the guys who you almost like when you would play Madden, you would pick the best running back team. You know what I mean? And somehow I feel like the NFL has made running backs very disposable. It's like, it feels like they're the last guys to get paid when time comes up for them to get a contract. Usually it's that running back by committee is a thing now. What do you think happened with the position that because back then when you got drafted, it was they expected you to carry the offense.
Yeah.
I
think it's a couple of things. And my theory is the first thing is I think the nature of coaches changed.
Okay.
I think when you had the old school, Vince Lombardi style of coach, like Ditka, right? They would play defense and run the ball, right? Very conservative, smash mouth football. And then you started having, these intellectual, smart coaches.
Right.
Like the guy at Arizona, right? And so they start scheming, right?
And
Cliff
Kingsbury.
Yeah, and it's more fun to scheme a passing game and throwing the ball. It's more exciting, right, to scheme a passing game and throwing the ball around than it is to scheme a run game and turn it and then hand the ball off.
Right.
That's part of it. The other part is running backs, especially the old way. We took a pounding, and it just you couldn't depend on a running back.
You can't even think of like when you said you had carry the ball 400 times in a season.
I know you can't even think about it. Yeah. So that doesn't last long, and also I think running backs, even though I think it's the most skilled position because you have to be able to do a lot of different things, it's pretty easy to get running backs. And I think they learn you have to move them through because you can't just depend on one guy for too long, especially now with these fast offenses. And also I think at receiver, a receiver has a good game, that's an amazing game is 10 touches.
Right, you touch the ball fucking 30 times.
Exactly.
It's an amazing game.
Exactly, and sometimes receivers will catch the ball and go out of bounds. And so you can have a star receiver and pay him a lot of money and feel confident he's going to stay healthy. But at a running back, you give him a lot of money, he's taking a pound, you don't know.
Well, you did a good job of like I said, I feel like some people might have counted you out, and then when you came back, you were murdering shit. So you did a good job of like extending your peak, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Nowadays, we'll see someone like, someone like, I'm trying to think. I feel like we saw it a little bit with Zeke this year, but you'll see somebody who is like David Johnson. Let's use a guy on the Cardinals, right? David Johnson, I just remember had like the craziest season. He had some injuries, but when he came back, I feel like the drop off for running backs is quick and fast. Like, why do you think that is now? Like, what do you notice? Because you did a good job of. I feel like you came from the days where like most running backs had like 9-10 year. We think of Emmitt Smith and Jerome Bettis.
For a long time.
Yeah, now
Adrian Peterson,
AP. Now we see motherfuckers and they're in and out. They got 3-4 years. They get a contract, and usually it's like you always hear the people always criticize NFL teams when they give the running back the fat contract.
Yeah, because
like, have you not learned?
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying, because running back is such a difficult position, because you know that if you're carrying the load, there's a target on you, you're going to get hit a lot. And
right.
I think when you're hungry and trying to get that check, it's easier. But once you get paid, it's human nature.
Who reminds you of the way you used to play now?
Leonard Fournette.
Hey, I was so happy to see him win the Super Bowl.
He looked good too.
They did him so dirty in Jacksonville.
He looked so good, but it was a wake-up call for him, and he responded. He looked really good. I was impressed.
Yeah. I thought, because I when you look at the stats he had his last year with Jacksonville, it's like they just kind of nobody wanted to trade for him. Like, I feel like Tom Brady's putting together like Pitts, or the Patriots used to always take chances on players.
Yeah.
And if it didn't work out, they just cut him. But, they brought Ocho Cinco over there. They brought, what was the big fat dude who was on the Redskins that they took? The overpaid lineman dude. He was such...
Offensive lineman or defensive lineman?
Shit. He was on the Redskins. The Redskins paid him out. And then, I forget his name. Big-ass dude, defensive lineman. It was a defensive lineman.
Yeah. I don't know, but Randy Moss, too?
Randy Moss, right? Because people kind of cast him aside when he was with the Raiders. But I feel like Tom Brady's kind of doing that now in Tampa Bay.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Like Antonio Brown, I feel like he's
picking it up. But I mean, because there's nothing like experience, and if you can get people on the same page and they have experience, there's nothing that can beat that in the league. Nothing.
And it's probably the X factor of there's probably like maybe 3 or 4 players in the league that everyone respects.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Like, well, you know what? We got you. You're Tom Brady. We know what we're here to do. You know what I'm saying? Yo, when you were coming up, you worked with No Limit Sports.
Yes.
Master P at the time was the hottest shit moving.
Yes.
I had a little fake No Limit chain when I was 12. Like, man, No Limit was insane for their run. And Master P starting a sports agency was kind of like, I think the only other person who was doing something similar to that was Jay Prince when he was doing boxing and managing Floyd Mayweather, right? Because this was before there was Rock Nation Sports, all that. How did you link with Master P outside of being in the same city? You're in New Orleans.
We ended up, I linked up with them when I was in school in Austin still. And what happens is agents have runners. Agents usually don't go after the players. They hire someone younger that can relate to the players, and they create the relationships, and then they introduce you to the agent. And so Terry, his name Terry Rito.
That was his runner.
Yeah, that was his runner. And me and Terry were just cool. We were just cool. And I just knew he was connected to No Limit Sports, and like you said, P was everything. Especially me coming from Southern California, going to school in Texas, and being introduced to that whole other way. Hey, it was real. Fat Pat, MJG, EJK, it was. So it was like mind expanding for me, and No Limit was a big part of that. And so I had an agent because I was a baseball player. So I had an agent, and I just thought I would keep that agent into football, right. But that relationship fell apart. And so I didn't have an agent. And then so all the normal dudes started coming at me. But they just felt like grimy. And so I thought about it, and I said, I'm at the top right now. P is at the top. Like, this could be an amazing partnership that really opens up people's minds to doing things differently, right? You don't always have to go to that same guy that,
right.
we can overlap the worlds. And so I said, let's do this.
And the contract that they negotiated for you did it end up not, like? Did you ever regret making that decision?
Of course. But it's not a negative regret. It's that regret. Like, I was young and naive, and I had like these idealistic ideas about what I wanted to do with my NFL career, and I don't regret that. I just remember growing up and hearing people complain about overpaid athletes, and I just didn't. I wanted to be different, and so what I told P in Leland, my agent, is I said, here's what I want. Because I knew, there's a every team has a certain amount of money that they get in order to sign
salary
a rookie
cap.
Well, it's a rookie salary cap.
Yep.
And so I knew I was the only draft pick that year, and so I said, just give me the max of whatever that rookie salary cap number is, and then I'll make the minimum and make everything else be based off incentives.
So it was your idea to have everything incentive based?
It was me. And they tried to talk me out of it. They said, listen, you have all this leverage and you have an opportunity, to be the highest paid rookie ever in the history of the NFL.
And you were like, nah.
And I said, and it didn't feel right. I mean, it didn't feel right. I was young. I mean, looking back, I'm like, oh, what the hell? But it just didn't feel right to me at the time. I didn't want to, it didn't feel right. I wanted to earn it. So what I regret is I didn't consider, what if I get hurt and I can't play? And then my first preseason game, I get a bad ankle sprain. I end up missing 10 games my first 2 seasons. And so that it backfired. But, once I got healthy, I put up numbers where I hit those incentives.
When did you sign your second NFL contract?
So I didn't sign my second. Well, technically, I signed my second NFL contract. I did
because was the first contract was 4 years or 5?
It was 8 years.
Oh,
it was 7 years with the option. It was 7 years with the option.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, it was 7 years.
Because now that's not even, or no, I mean, what's his name? Mahomes just signed a 10-year deal.
Yeah,
so.
but usually for a rookie, they take 4 or 5-year deals because at 4 years you're unrestricted free agent. But
again, had an 8-year deal. That's like that Scottie Pippen shit in The Last Dance.
But but I was thinking, that's why we did the wedding dress.
Right.
We're married. I was thinking they traded everything.
We got 8 years.
They traded everything for me. Like, let's do this. I'm not messing around. I'm not trying to be hopping around from teams. Let's do this. And so, but when I got traded to Miami, my agent Lee Steinberg, my new agent, talked to the Dolphins and said, look, you made this big trade to get him over here. Let's at least
sort him out.
Let's at least like switch it around a little bit. So we talked about the incentives. And then I balled out that year, led the NFL in rushing, and was able to get back on track. So that was technically my second contract, but really it was just an addendum. So my first contract lasted.
It still kept going.
It lasted all the way until I finally became a free agent, and then I signed with the Ravens.
That's crazy. So with the Master P thing, you were around Master P kind of in the peak of No Limit, right? It was about the peak. Yeah, 99 was the peak, yeah. You're playing football in New Orleans. You had to be around some crazy shit.
I was. So they were their compound. All their stuff was down in Baton Rouge, which was about 60 miles from New Orleans. But yeah, I was down there, and it was crazy. It was just so dynamic. Like I was down there one time, and they assigned this basketball player from the WNBA, and she would mess around on the beat machine, and they were just messing around. They went in there and they recorded Hootie Hoo, like just sitting out like in the studio like this, hanging out, and she just was messing around. They're like, hey, let's go in the studio, and then dudes just showed up. They went in the studio all night and came out with that.
Fuck with us, go, man. That was my shit. That was off the True to the Game shit, the True album.
It was like that, where it was just people coming together, like talking, getting them recording. That's why they were putting out albums every 2 weeks.
They were so many. Everybody had a fucking album. Wait, so Hootie Hoo was helped produced by a WNBA player?
Yes.
Holy shit! Who? What? Do you remember?
I don't remember her name, but I'll look.
Must not have been that good.
Yeah, I mean,
that's fucking crazy.
So it was live like that, and then they go to LSU down the road, shoot basketball. And it felt like a family. It really felt like a family.
C-Murder and Silk. They're all brothers. So
yeah,
that's crazy, man. How long were you actually? Like, how long was Master P your agent? How long did it last?
About a year. It was
Okay.
about a year.
And you realize like, oh man.
Well, the agency just started to fall apart. You know, I think, and you know, kind of my fault because I think if I had taken their idea of the contract and become the highest paid player, that would have looked better for an agent.
Right.
You know, and I think it could have turned into something more, but we got so much negative publicity and negative media coverage that the story wasn't, you know, rebellious upstart, you know, rookie,
right.
you know, pushes back against agents. It was look what happens when you hire a rapper to represent you.
Right. That's crazy. When you mentioned earlier you were a baseball player. A lot of people don't know you were drafted by the Phillies. Right?
Yeah.
And that was because, you know, our guy in Arizona is one of those guys, you know?
Yeah.
I'm afraid Kyler Murray's going to fuck around and want to play for the Oakland A's one day, and then we're fucked. Then we got, I don't know who. But
he's not.
No, I hope not.
Yeah.
But I like being a two sport athlete. Like, did you ever take getting back into baseball serious at any point in time?
This is a great question. I did. So, growing up in San Diego, I was a big Padres fan.
Yeah.
Big Tony Gwynn fan. And I always thought since I was a kid I would be a professional baseball
By the way, I love
player.
Tony Gwynn because I felt like he looks like every other guy in the world, and he was just a fucking hit. Anyway, continue.
And so I always thought I'd be a professional baseball player. Started playing when I was second grade. Didn't start playing football until I was in seventh grade. But started playing football. Baseball was about the same. High school, I started to take off as far as football, but still had a dream to play baseball. And so my senior year, junior year colleges were looking at me. Major league baseball teams were looking at me, and I told all the colleges, I'm playing minor league baseball. I don't care. And then I told all the baseball teams I'm playing college football. I don't care. And they both were like, cool. And so I was drafted by the Phillies, and I went to Texas to play football. And so what I did is in the summers after school, I would drive my car to Florida, to Clearwater, where the Phillies.
I used to live in Tampa. Love me some Clearwater, man.
Yeah. Oh. So we go to Clearwater, and I would do I get in baseball shape, and then they would send me. I played in North Carolina for 2 years, played in Virginia, and then I played in upstate New York for a summer. And I played baseball all summer, and then at the end of the summer, I'd go back and start football training camp. And so when I got to the NFL combine after my senior year, all the NFL teams said, you got to choose either baseball or football. And I was much better at football, and so I said, okay, I'm going to give up baseball. And then after my second year in New Orleans, first year, again, I told you I missed 10 games.
Right.
So I was starting to think, fuck this shit.
Man, we might have to go play baseball.
I might have to go play baseball. And so I rented a spot down in South Mission Beach in San Diego. And I called up my old baseball coach from high school, and I said, can you get me back into baseball shape? And so I called up my old baseball agent. I started reaching out to baseball teams. But my strength coach from the Saints called me up and convinced me to come back to play football. So
when you said baseball shape, what's the difference between baseball shape and football shape?
It's about 20 pounds. It's about 20 pounds, and it's about 20 pounds of muscle is really. So I would, I in college football, you got to lift you lift weights a lot.
Right.
And I'm the kind of person I lift weights. First time I ever lifted weights when I was a teenager, I had stretch marks the next morning. So I lift weights, and I get swole. And so when I was
instant results.
Exactly. When I was in college, I'd be swole.
Right.
I'd leave to play baseball, and I'd come back skinny and fast because baseball it's hot. First of all, it's hot in the summer, and just throwing the ball all the time. The bulking the shoulders and swinging the bat. I would get down and be in great shape when the football season started.
That's crazy. We think about all the players who could have, like we mentioned Kyler Murray, obviously Deion Sanders, Bo Jackson.
Yeah.
You probably was like, I'm gonna be the next Bo Jackson out this motherfucker.
That was my idol. That's why I wore 34.
That's crazy.
I wanted to be the next Bo Jackson.
Yo, you played 4 years in college, which is something else that nobody does anymore.
Yeah.
And then you still went on to have a long career.
Yeah.
But by the time you got out of college, playing that much, at a high level, the highest level, did you feel like your body was already kind of beat down a bit?
Looking back, hell yeah, but I think in the time it just was so exciting. I felt invincible. I wasn't even really thinking about my body like that, you know. And you asked about regrets, and that's one regret I do have is that, and it's crazy, but I think I should have done it. Is I should have taken a year off, you know, after
college.
After college, because NFL wasn't going anywhere. I would still be in my early 20s, but I think having a year off to travel and just, you know, get my mind off of something else, I think it would have served me. It would have served me well.
I have to ask this question because my friend is a big UCLA fan, and I told him I was going to be talking to you. So he said, ask him about the time we beat them 66-3 or something like. It was something crazy. Do you remember this game?
It was so. I mean, it was 2 years in a row. You know, because in college they do the home and away series, and so we started off. It was my junior year. We started off ranked like number 8,
right?
8 and we won our first game, and they were coming in. They lost to Tennessee, and they came in, and we were, you know, cocky, thinking we were gonna run all over them. I mean, they beat the piss out of us. It was one of those games where it was like. I felt like I was in a nightmare. I mean, Cade McNown. Crazy. It was like the Cade McNown show. That dude is. I mean, that day and even the next year.
By the way, how many fucking McNowns are there?
There's McCowns and McNowns.
Okay, yeah,
yeah. But Cade McNown that's the best college quarterback I've ever seen in person. He tore us to pieces. It was nasty. I mean, it just kept going and going.
Who's the best NFL quarterback you ever played against? When you saw him with your own eyes and you were like, God damn. I feel like everyone feels that way about Mahomes now. Like some of these throws, even when he was getting the shit kicked out of him, you know, planking across the field.
I mean, that shit was crazy. That's next level.
But like when you were playing, who did you see in person that just were, you just felt?
Peyton Manning. And it was part of it were the throws, but just how, you know, he'll walk up to the huddle and whatever the defense is doing, right? He'll just call it out. He's doing that. He's doing that. He's doing that. Okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this, and then just go. And there's when he was on,
and then you look over and you got fucking Jay Fielder, and you're like, "Fuck, we're fucked. We're fucked, boys. It's over. We're over here running the fucking Wildcat. There is no quarterback on the fucking field."
I mean, honestly, that's the feeling when Peyton Manning is on. That's the feeling, and there's nothing.
Like, what are we gonna do?
There's nothing you can do.
We gotta injure him.
Yeah, and he gets rid of the ball. He got rid of the ball so fast. It was nothing you could do.
Man, what would have happened if they would have got Edgerrin James and you would if you and Peyton Manning would have played together?
I know. I mean,
Jesus Christ,
it would have been fun. It would have been fun.
I'd have been insane. When you were like, you know, whenever I feel like you're as high caliber of a college football player you were, especially your last year, right? Pros reach out when you kind of have a feeling when you might get drafted places. Sometimes players on that team will reach out and try to connect with you early. Did anybody of notability do that to you when you were obviously coming out and to go in the NFL?
No, I mean, you know, usually, especially if you're coming out of college, usually it's guys that you played with in college rather than on a team. And so, the couple of guys that I knew in the league, they weren't on teams that would have drafted you. That would have drafted me. So no, but you know, I got close with Marshall Faulk because he went to San Diego State. I grew up in San Diego, and he was in college when I was in high school, and so we kind of bumped into each other. And he had just been traded from Indy to St. Louis because St. Louis had that pick, and I had visited with St. Louis, and then they made that trade right before the draft, and then
you could have been playing with the greatest
exactly
show on turf.
Yeah, but in that style of offense, though, I really like that, and I think people looked at me because at Texas we ran the I more, so people just assumed that I was an I running back, but I consider myself
the outside,
a versatile
ball,
exactly. I can do everything, and so I think I got pigeonholed a little bit. And when the Colts thought about Peyton Manning and the shotgun all the time, single back, it was closer to what Edgerrin did at Miami, and so he was a better fit in their system.
Who's the craziest guy you've played with? And that could be crazy, like this guy's a good time, or crazy like this guy will fucking take your face off if we're out at a bar.
I do another.
Give me the good time guy and then the crazy guy like you want to have behind you at the bar when you're about to get into a fight.
Another Sun Devil. This dude named one of my best friends in the league, Terrell Smith. He played fullback with me in New Orleans. And he just was crazy. Being fullback in the NFL, you got to be crazy.
Especially back then when the fullbacks were a thing.
Especially when with Coach Dick, in the kind of offense we were running. And so Terrell he got to get himself so geeked up that sometimes, he'd have to do push-ups in the middle of the game just to like calm himself down a little bit.
When you say geeked up,
like
the kids mean, what do you mean by geeked up?
He was doing it on some,
he was on some shit.
Well,
was he on that Michael Irving?
Okay, so no.
okay. I'm just.
But they did. So this was back in the day before ephedra was banned, and so hydroxycut. They had this ripped fuel. They had these. And
you would take that shit. It was like taking meth.
Yes. And so T was on that. He was on that.
Just yoked.
He tried to get me sometime, and I remember we were playing the Panthers. And and our quarterback threw an interception. And I remember
which quarterback was it? Put him on blast.
It was probably Aaron Brooks.
Aaron Brooks. Was he number 2?
Number 2.
Yeah,
it was Aaron Brooks. Threw a pick. Yeah, and I was so like hopped up on this that I ran to try to make the tackle full speed, and I missed him, and I got back up and I chased him down like 30 yards, and I finally made the tackle.
That's like that shit that DK Metcalf did this year.
Yes, but I was so hopped up I had to go in the locker room for like 20 minutes just to like calm down. My heart was beating so fast. That stuff is dangerous. So he would be on that, and that just made it worse.
Everybody was probably on that.
Everybody was on that. Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Everybody
was like, because I feel like we're in an era where things have swayed for weed because they took it out of like they can't test for it anymore, right?
Well, they don't suspend players.
Or they don't suspend players anymore. But recreationally, weed is widely accepted now. I think recreationally, there's a bunch of drugs that are probably not as big as they were. But when we always hear about the 90s and we watch movies like The Last Boy Scout and like all these players just fucking snorting coke and fucking bitches and doing steroids and like, was that like because you played through kind of 2 eras low key, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Did you feel was that the vibe ever? Like when you got into the league, as far as just like some guys were just fucking shooting shit up in their ass, pause, you know what I'm saying? And just like, and you were a pretty fucking big dude yourself.
Yeah.
But like, was that something that was more widely like it's just going on?
So I think, I got in the league in very late 1999. It was at the very end of, I think, when that was more widespread. I think the heyday of that was, those Dallas Cowboy Michael Irvin days. But I think, it's a couple of things. One is every team is an ecosystem. Every team is an ecosystem. Mm-hmm. Some teams are chill, and some teams, they have fun.
Right.
And then you usually have a player like Michael Irvin, who is an animated player who wants to have a good time. And football is a very stressful job, and we all need a way to find a release. And so I think we're intense kind of people. And so, yes, sometimes football players get together, they can get carried away. But in a healthy sense, we got to release that stress somehow.
Let me ask you this. Out of all the sports, I DJ, I do nightclubs, do strip clubs, do all this, right? I feel like out of every sport, it's motherfucking NFL players everywhere. Right? It's like, no matter where I'm DJing, it's like, we got 4 Cardinals over here. Randomly, the fucking Rams are in the building. Like, what? It's not even football season. What are they fucking doing in Scottsdale? Like, what is happening?
Yes.
Yeah. Am I tripping?
So if you do the math, right?
There's more players.
There's a lot more players.
Right. There's a lot more players.
There's 52 roster, and then 7 or 8 guys.
And most of those guys, we have no idea what the fuck they look like.
Exactly. Yeah. We might recognize their name from
Right. If you hear the name,
exactly.
I don't know. I see he's got a fucking helmet on every time I see him.
Exactly. But it's just a lot of dudes.
It is a lot.
You have a guy. You have a lot of guys that play for a year, play for 2 years on a practice squad, and they're in the NFL. Or
technically
they just got cut and they're just free agent. Waiting to get picked up. They're in the NFL. So
yeah, that's crazy.
It's funny.
What do what's your involvement in the weed game now? Because I feel like you're when we think of athletes and celebrities who have I associate you with being Ricky Williams, the hippie who smokes weed and fucks dudes up on Sunday.
Yeah, that's me. And that's really what I'm working on is, I'm thinking back when I was a kid and the potheads and the jocks and the athletes, the stoners.
No,
and
they're all
athletes,
the same guy.
They didn't hang out,
right?
You know?
Yep,
they didn't hang out because that was the time we live in. And as I, matured and grew, I realized that I was a jock and I was a stoner, and they were separated. And so for me, it was work on trying to bring them together. And so I'm launching a brand on 420 called the Heisman. The Heisman. HIGHSMAN. And it's really bringing sports and cannabis together.
And so this is going to be like marijuana strain.
It's a lifestyle brand. It's a cannabis lifestyle brand.
Okay, so it's kind of like clothing line.
There'll be merch. There'll even be Heisman houses. So sports.
We got to get you your own strain, bro.
Exactly. We're working on it. We're working on it right now. So yeah,
we're gonna get you hooked up with Burner over at Cookies, man.
Yeah, Cookies is doing it right. Yeah, Cookies is a great example of a
Gary
lifestyle
Payton's
brand.
selling a lot of weed with them.
I saw
a lot of weed. That Gary Payton is popping.
I'm trying to get my picture on a little bag, a little baggie.
Oh, come on, man, we make it happen. I will FaceTime Burner right now after we get off this. When you moved, Austin's one of my favorite cities. I used to do South by Southwest out there every year. I used to throw shows and do all that, but it was like one of the cities when I first went there, I had no idea what to expect. And when I got there, I just fell in love. It's like its own vibe. It's, I always, explain to people from where I'm from, it's like Mill Avenue in Tempe, but like times 20, 6th Street. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
But it's a liberal city in a red state. Was it always kind of that? Like, and when you went there, how did you like Austin? Like because you came from San Diego, which is its own thing as well. People go to San Diego, LA, two different vibes.
Yes. So I had a very similar experience. So I went on my recruiting trip to Austin, and I'd never really been out of California. So I thought, Texas, I thought there'd be like tumbleweed growing down on the airport. And so Austin's a beautiful city. So flying in over the lakes and stuff, I was like, wow. And it was December, and it was 72 degrees, I remember. I landed, and I fell in love probably within the first 2 hours I was in Austin. And it was much smaller. I think it was about 500,000 people. And it was really just the capital and the university, and that was it. Yeah. And especially in the summertime, there was nobody there. But it was always liberal. Willie Nelson has a statue there, and he's an icon in Austin. So it was always more liberal especially than Dallas and Houston. But as it's grown crazily.
It's crazy.
Over the past.
And then Joe Rogan just moved.
Everybody's moving there. Yeah, no state taxes.
State. Yeah, me and Freddie Gibbs were out there like 2 weeks ago for a few days, and we were going to comedy shows, and it was just like, it's crazy though. The homeless shit downtown kind of looks like parts of LA.
It's getting bad in Austin right now.
It is, man. I was like, what the fuck? Yeah. I hadn't been since like 2017. I'm like, where'd all these fucking homeless people come
liberal
from?
Mayors, I'm telling you, liberal mayors.
Yeah, it's crazy because like there's a such thing as being too liberal.
Yeah.
Because I'm a fucking Democrat. I'm independent, but I've always voted Democrat. But I was someone who really liked Bernie Sanders a lot when he was running, But there is a such thing as just shit being too liberal.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what's happening here.
Yeah. It's happening in Austin. It's happening in Austin too.
Yeah, because there's that area at the end of 6th Street before there's the other side of 6th Street.
Yeah.
Where there's like the parking lot with the bridge.
Yeah.
That like you could, and it's all homeless tents. And I was like, oh, hell no. Like we used to walk from one side. There was this thing called Fader Fort. We'd just walk over that, like under that bridge.
Yep.
And like it's all homeless people.
I'm telling you. And also, I was like, dang, when I saw like the homeless people in their tents, they're starting to hang art. They're starting to hang artwork.
That's the way it is out here. Damn, you're in fucking Venice. You live in Venice.
Yes.
I rode my bike through Venice last week, and it was the first time I've been there in probably 2 years. And I was blown away by how, like the handball court, people just turned them into apartments. Like you said, like you'll walk by some of these fucking LA homeless tents, and they're better than some of the apartments that some of these studios motherfuckers are renting out here.
It's COVID, COVID people abandoned, people weren't visiting Venice as much, and then the homeless people just.
I was sitting there, and there was like 5 or 6 tents set up on like a part of the little hill in front of the beach in Venice, and I was like, these motherfuckers have beachfront property, and they're paying $0. Now, I don't know where they're taking a shit and showering every day. That's different, right? Because that's where things get a little dicey.
Yes.
But I'm like, these homeless motherfuckers wake up every day on the beach. This the best homeless. Like, if I was homeless, that's what you'd want to be.
If I was homeless, that's exactly where I would be.
Hey, I know you're watching the interview right now. Thank you for watching. We got to interrupt this for a special announcement from our good sponsors over at Odd Socks. I have Odd Socks on my feet as we speak. These are NWO socks, you know what I mean? The wolf pack, you know what I'm talking about? Shout out to Odd Socks, though. If you're watching this, go to oddsocksofficial.com and buy the most comfortable socks in the world. And I truly do mean that. These right here, these are the most comfortable socks in the world. These are the basics. They're just plain fucking great. You know, they got all the licenses, SpongeBob, WWE, just everything you could ever want. You know what I mean? I'm just throwing socks at Nico Blitz right now. Our producer is filming this. But look, go to oddsocksofficial.com. Trust me, they got the masks, the boxers, everything you need. My personal favorite that I've been loving is they got the Naruto, and I'm not even into that shit, but the socks are fly, and the Street Fighter socks. Crazy licenses, oddsocksofficial.com, keyword Bootleg Kev. Right now, save 20% off at checkout. Do you, like, you know, I've seen some people who live in Venice who are very specifically with that area because it's so expensive to live over there. A lot of people have worked their entire life to be able to afford to live in a place like Venice Beach. Yeah. But now it's like you walk outside and you might step in human shit.
Yeah.
Has it kind of like made you reevaluate maybe being over there? Is it frustrating?
So when I first moved to Venice, I was right next to Santa Monica, and there's a lot of homeless people walking around.
And there's, for the record, there's always been homeless people by Venice Beach, but it's something else.
But it's
some other shit now.
It's more. It used to just be 1 or 2 blocks, and now it's more. But I'm lucky. Where I live is like a little like gated community thing, right. And so I'm good where I live, but I could see the people that, you know, paying, you know, almost $2 million for
I'd be fucking sick to
my
my
2,500 square foot home, and you walk outside and there's homeless.
Some 60-year-old dude I'd be shooting up and taking a shit outside.
Yeah, I'd be pissed off.
Oh, it's terrible. Why'd you leave us? Like, why not living in San Diego?
The truth is, there's just more going on up here.
That's fair.
There's just, and you know, I was talking to a friend today. I was driving up here, and I was like, it's just surreal to me. It's just surreal living in LA, because just like having this conversation, you know, walking into a studio and someone saying, "Hey, I got some weed." It's just surreal. And there's some of that in San Diego, but it's
not like I go to San Diego a lot, and even the weed thing, it doesn't feel like it's like out here. It's like a culture. Like everyone's walking around smoke. San Diego hasn't gotten there yet.
Yes.
Even though, you know, it's recreational, you can get the little but it's not the same.
Yes.
It's definitely.
It's a vibe.
I love Ocean Beach though. I like the hippie beach, man.
Oh, I love Ocean Beach.
That's my favorite beach.
Oh, that's the spot
on the West Coast.
That's one of the like the unknown spots.
Because when I was a kid, my cousin worked at SeaWorld. He was like a line chef.
Yeah.
And I was so poor when I was little, we never could go. I never went to any theme park in my life. We only went there because he gives free tickets.
Yeah.
So my aunt had this ratchet ass apartment. What was the name of the street? It was in a fucking trap though. My God, it was like really bad. But then we'd go to Ocean Beach every summer for like 3 years. We would go to Ocean Beach, and they had this. Fucking the dog beach, you know, I love dogs. And then they had this place that had these big ass slices of pizza, and there's that smoke shop, the Black there.
Yes.
I used to go buy my fucking black light posters from there and take them back to Arizona.
Yeah.
They have the ill posters at that spot. Yeah, I fucking love San Diego.
Beach, man.
That's the hippie beach though.
It is.
I feel like you go to the other beaches, it's like, you know, it's like, it's not you know, I like to be around everyday people, you know what I'm saying? Like, especially like La Jolla, so uppity. It's like, it's crazy. Do you think, as obviously a kid growing up in San Diego, when the Chargers came to LA, like that had to be heartbreaking, man. I can't even imagine like growing up and that's your team, and then it moves.
I mean, I'm all messed up because, you know, when I was a kid, the Raiders were in LA. The Raiders were in LA, and the Rams were in LA, and so San Diego, we were Raider haters. You know, we hated the Raiders. And we hated LA, you know, even Padres, we hated the Dodgers. And so when the Raiders went to Oakland, you know, we could still not like them, but it wasn't the same.
There's a real rivalry between San Diego and LA.
It wasn't the same. It wasn't the same. It wasn't the same.
Right.
And then the last straw was when LA Chargers like that.
Ooh. Yeah, I can only imagine. It'd be like Arizona. We have that same relationship with LA.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like fuck the Lakers, beat the Dodgers, etc. Yeah, when I moved out here and I started to do radio out here, and they told me, yeah, you might want to start wearing a Dodgers hat. I'm like, you know what? I can do that because I don't care about baseball, but I'm not doing that with football or basketball. You'll never see me. And I love LeBron.
Yeah.
But I can't wear anything that says Lakers on it. It's not in my nature, man. It's so
with the Suns, I play 2K every once in a while. My favorite team, which is the 06 Suns.
Oh yeah, with Steve Nash and Quentin Richardson and Amari and Sean Marion.
Yes, that's my squad.
And what's crazy is Barbosa. Yeah, it's crazy because like it's not even like there's players off that bench that I don't know why they didn't make them because the bench. You know what's crazy about those old ass teams on 2K? Is like 90% of the players on the bench are just made up players.
Just made up players, yes.
Yeah, it's like, fuck, man, where the fuck is Tim Thomas on the bench, what's in your opinion, the best game you ever played?
Probably the game, my freshman year in college. We were playing Texas A&M, and back then they had the best defense in the country. And I was a freshman fullback, and I was scared. I'm not gonna lie, I was scared. And I remember it was like the end of the first quarter, they ran a blitz and we ran a draw play, and they kind of ran themselves out of the play, and I just broke up the sideline for a touchdown. And I was so shocked that I had a nice play, and I ended up finishing the game with 165 yards and 2 touchdowns, and we beat them and won the conference championship.
That's crazy.
So that just as a freshman showing up against our
putting up a rival. $160.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. What was your career high in the NFL when it came to yards? Like in a game, in a single game?
223. I think I'm one of only 4 players that have back-to-back 200-yard games. I think I had 223 against Buffalo, then I had 216 the next week against Chicago.
Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah, I was on one.
You was on that fucking hydroxy cut, just fucking. Shit! Wait! Was that with the Dolphins?
That was with the Dolphins. Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, Dolphins.
Defensive players that scared you.
Okay, if I'm being honest, John Lynch a little bit.
Okay.
Safety for the Bucs.
For the Bucs, yeah. GM of the 49ers.
Yes, yep, exactly. Ray Lewis. I mean, I remember my rookie year we played him. I was hurt, but I was glad I was hurt that game because he just is so smart and so fast and so girthy. Like when he hits you, I mean, he was all over the field, and, and when he hits you, it hurts. So he was one.
He's laughing about girthy. You sick fuck. All right, continue.
I guess you say girthy, the mind always goes there. Yeah.
Who else?
Yeah. That's it. There's the two players, both played for the Patriots, who I had like battles with. I wasn't intimidated, but they would come and hit you. Rodney Harrison.
Yeah.
And Lawyer Malloy. But mainly safety. So every Wednesday when we would get our scouting report, and the first thing I would do is I'd look to see how much the safeties weighed. That's how I knew what kind of week it was going to be. If they were 210 and under,
you're going to destroy them.
I got you. I got them. Which are the 220 safeties? You got to get your mind right.
Yeah, because Rodney Harrison, when you were in that division, when did the Patriots win their first Super Bowl? 01?
01.
So you were in the division. Were you already in? No, you got there in 02?
I got there in 02. We played him in 01 when I was in New Orleans, but I got there to Miami in 02. Yeah.
When you played him, was it Brady or Bledsoe?
It was Brady.
Brady. That's crazy. Do you remember like at the time that we didn't know that Tom Brady was going to be Tom Brady?
Well, it was 2001. 2001, no one knew. I think
nobody knew.
That might have been one of the first games he started.
And nobody knew.
And he shredded us because in New Orleans we had a really good defense. We went up there and he shredded us. And so everyone was taking note, but nobody knew what was coming.
That's crazy. Yeah. And then you had to play him twice a year after that.
I used to love playing. I hated playing them, and I loved playing them. I loved it because of the competition, but I hated it because they were always ready.
Yeah, because we always hear about Bill Belichick being this defensive mind, so he had to defend you for however many years. Is it all true? Is it the coaching? Is it the player?
It's mainly the coaching, and a lot of it has to do with scouting. For instance, they like how they watch film in their scouting team, right? That they had this note that whenever I adjusted my gloves, it meant it was going to be a running play. So every little cue they could find, they give it to the defensive players. And so a lot of the times you're playing the Patriots and they're calling out the play before.
And was that true?
It's true.
So every time you just.
But I mean, it wasn't true 100% of the time, but the numbers
enough
times where where you get a head start, and we ran the ball so much that it didn't matter. But yeah, so we played them in 2008, the Wildcat game. And it was the opposite because they had never seen the Wildcat, so they couldn't prepare for it, and they didn't know what to do. They were running into each other, arguing on the sidelines, and it felt so good to whip them up. Yeah,
when y'all were doing the Wildcat, it was you and Ronnie Brown, and at the time, I don't recall there being a better 1-2 punch because Ronnie Brown was a fucking monster.
Yeah, the Cowboys. They had Marion Barber and
Barber and the other guy. I know who you're talking about.
Thomas Jones.
Was it Thomas? No, Thomas Jones.
No, Felix Jones.
Felix Jones and
yes.
Marion Barber.
Yes.
Yeah. But the Wildcat. I want to say you guys are first. At least I'm a pretty big football fan. I don't think I saw anyone do it before y'all did it.
Well, just before we did it, our offensive coordinator, or our quarterbacks coach, David Lee, was at Arkansas, and Felix Jones and
Marion.
McFadden, McFadden.
Yeah.
They ran it at Arkansas that year before. Yeah.
Wow. So when you guys decided to do it in the NFL, are you thinking like this is fucking crazy? We're gonna get ate up. I was like this high school bullshit. But then we started off 0-2, and then we were like, okay, we gotta try some shit.
we gotta try some shit, and so we put it in against the Patriots that first game, and Ronnie had like. I had a 60-yard, I had 120, threw for a touchdown. I had like almost 100 yards rushing, and we ended up making the playoffs that year. So it wasn't Brandon Marshall wasn't there yet, right? He came the year after.
Did you play with him?
I did.
How was he as a dude, man? Because I think he's one of those wide receivers who don't get enough praise for the career he's had. Because man, I remember when that motherfucker had like 20 some odd catches in a game.
Yeah, I mean. If you're just standing next to him, he's like a line. He's like a defensive end. That's how big he is. And great athlete, a great teammate. And I think I got him later in his career where he was starting to figure it out and kind of mature a little bit. And we were really close. But yeah, when he was on, he couldn't be stopped.
Can you reveal who your biggest smoking buddy was in the NFL?
So here's the issue here.
Yeah,
is that
you don't want to snitch.
Well, it's not even that I don't want to snitch. Is that for 80-something% of my NFL career, I was in the NFL's drug program, and I was the star player for most of that time, and so nobody on the team was really trying to smoke with me.
Yo, how did you finesse the drug? Because when you're in the NFL drug program, it's their job to try to catch you up. So how did you get through it as much as you did?
There's this drink, and I forgot what it was called. Detox.
Because everyone knows weed takes like 2 weeks to get out of your system, right? Something like that.
Well,
it depends on how much you smoke.
It depends how much you smoke. It depends how much body fat. It depends how active you are. And so I got it down to a science where eventually I realized. So at one point I was being tested 9 times a month. Okay, so that's yeah. So that's like 2 times a week. And so what I realized. They never tested me on back-to-back days. So if a dude would call me up and he tested me in the morning before I went to work, 6 a.m., I pee in the cup. I had a good day because I knew that when I got home, I could smoke that night. And I could smoke probably 5 hits and be good for like 3 days. Okay. Oh. Because it wasn't stacking. It wasn't building up in my system. It would go in, then it would go out. And then later I realized, it got to the point where I could take 2 hits the day before a test and still pass the test. And so I just had to ration. I just had to ration it out. But earlier in my career, when I was just smoking, I just would drink a drink and get it at the head shop. And the guy would call me and say, I'll be there at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I set my alarm for 5. I get up, I drink the drink, wait 15 minutes, drink water, 15 minutes, drink water, pee one time, and then your urine is clean for 5 hours. And that worked. I mean, I used to have like, in my closet, I just had like probably 20 boxes at a time.
All that shit,
yeah,
just cases.
Yes, cases. I'd buy them out every time I went.
You ever use anyone else's pee?
Mm-mm. Because in the NFL,
they probably watch you piss.
In the NFL, it's to your knees. Pants to your knees.
Oh, that's crazy. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But but I will say, later in my career, the drug dude, the test dude, it was the same guy, and we became really cool. And so then sometimes I'd tell my wife to pee and put it in the bathroom, and then when I go in there. But yeah.
Do you recall the highest you've ever been in your life? And it could be on anything, mushrooms, I don't know, whatever. I don't know. Do you recall like just the most out of your mind you've ever been?
I don't know. I mean,
I had a rough week last week. I ate mushrooms, ate an edible, smoked my face off, and got shit faced.
Okay, I do.
In Austin.
I do.
This was in Austin, by the way.
Yes, I do. I do remember a time. And it was mixing stuff. It was when I was in New Orleans. Yeah, I was young. I think I was smoking. I was drinking. Probably something else. I don't even remember. But yeah, I was gone. I remember I was so gone. I was telling my friend.
That had to be some good ecstasy if it was in the 90s.
Yeah.
That was when ecstasy was real.
it was early two days. It was real. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I just remember I was gone in New Orleans, and where I thought I was in one part of town, but I was in a completely different part of town. I don't even remember how.
Show up at the fucking Magnolia Project.
All I know is that I got dropped off at my house by a sheriff. Okay, here's all I remember. I got dropped off by the sheriff, and he called me the next morning to corroborate our stories to make sure that I was good.
Wow. So he could have arrested you.
Oh, I'm guessing, because he looked out for me.
He was like, you're Ricky Williams, man. We got a game.
I was close friends with his boss, and thank God.
Wow.
I was gone.
When you were in New Orleans, it was like the beginning of Cash Money.
It was the beginning.
It was like No Limit was kind of, and Cash Money was like this.
Yes, it was. Yeah. I remember I was in New York. For the Heisman stuff in the club, and they had just started playing that
Juvenile High.
That Juvenile, yes. They just started.
They put Jay-Z on the remix and shit.
Yes, they just started playing it. I was in a club in New York. I remember it. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, did you end up? We always see the young rapper dudes always have relationships with the big superstars in the city. Did you ever end up? I mean, there was kind of a weird. There was a weird rivalry between No Limit and Cash Money. I was kind
of in the middle, but
okay.
But early when I was there, my first year there, I was at a club, and Juvenile was there, and we said what's up, and then towards the very end, when Hot Boys were getting really big, then I hung out with them a lot more.
Your time in Miami, early 2000s, Miami was fucking Trick Daddy and Slip and Slide Records.
Yeah.
Trina. And, I mean, what was it like being in Miami in the early 2000s and having your best professional? You had your best year there.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it wasn't the same kind of rivalry, but Trick and Trina, like, they were tight with Edrin, Edge and I came out.
He's from there.
Exactly. So it wasn't.
And everyone kind of compared you guys.
Yeah. So, but I love Edge, and we're tight. But it was just kind of that. But I mean, whenever I saw him, it was cool.
And he's a Florida boy for real.
Yes, exactly. But it was awesome. It was awesome being in Miami at that time. South Beach was popping. I mean, like,
how much pussy were you getting at the time in life? Like, listen, you're in Miami. I mean, by the way, your college had to be crazy.
College was crazy. I'm more of a quality
over quantity.
I mean, I love a quantity of quality.
A quantity of quality. What's the highest amount of quantity of quality you've had at once?
At once, just 3, but in like a day, maybe
a foursome?
7.
So you had 3 girls and you.
3 and me, yeah.
Oh, so a foursome. At one time,
but in a day, probably 7. So in Miami, yeah, because Miami is just it's just such a sexy city. Like, every time I go down there, I can't help it.
I just love going to Tootsie's, man.
I mean,
I love Tootsie's.
I
bet you. He's like, I've ran in and out of that place. VIP's $400.
My God.
Anyway,
yes.
wait. How old were you when you had your foursome? That's a moment in life.
This was right out of college. So this was when I was single. I was in New Orleans, a rookie. I had a big ass house.
Just running it up.
Yeah, And I mean, I don't want to
7 in a day too. That's impressive.
Yes, that's just being dumb.
It's the hydroxy
That's just
cut.
being dumb and flexing your muscle. The kind
You
of
had to be on hydroxy.
challenging yourself.
If you're
one
fucking
day.
7 girls in a day, you got to be on something. You got to be on some hydroxy cut or some of that shit you were talking about that your fullback was on. That's impressive. I did 2 in a day. In my heyday.
Oh,
7 is
but that's why I go groupies. Why when there's people that are called groupies, it's easy. It's easy.
Right. Right.
It's easy. It's harder to say no at some points than it is to say yes.
Back then, nowadays it's very popular to be a beautiful woman. And like you said, there's more NFL players than anybody. But most beautiful women that I've ever met, some sort of NFL player slides in the DMs, right? In it's funny he's laughing. In your day, we didn't have social media. So obviously there's clubs. Would it literally be bitches in the hotels though? Just trying to get chose?
No, because on the hotel, in the hotels we have security. So
Okay.
We have a security right outside the elevator. And so it's more like they just know the bars or the clubs or the whatever that the players hang out at. That's really how it.
Did you ever have
if we do charity events or something, they might show up.
You were a celebrity at the time culturally, not just if you were a sports fan. Did you ever get any sort of attention from any celebrity females?
I didn't. I mean, I don't think so. I had fantasies, like everyone in my, Halle Berry,
Let me ask you something. You see Monsters Ball?
Yeah.
And so I remember the first time I saw Halle Berry's tits was in Swordfish with John Travolta.
Yeah.
I saw that shit at Metro Center Mall. And as soon as it came out on DVD, I just paused it. Or it was a VHS. I was like, look at those. And then Monsters Ball, Billy Bob Thornton just kind of did his thing, man.
Yeah.
Is Halle Berry the it for you, when you were growing up?
She was the it one.
Yeah, Halle Berry in the 90s was the one.
Yeah.
Was Halle Berry was in Last Boy Scout? We talked about that movie ever. Wasn't she in that? That was a crazy movie.
Oh, the Last Boy Scout.
When the running back's running, he pulls the gun out and just starts shooting players on the field. Fucking crazy. Damon Wayans. Yeah, that. What do you think is the best football movie ever made? There's some good ones. Or your favorite?
I like Any Given Sunday.
Any Given Sunday was good.
I mean, because I think I was in Miami. I was in Miami at the time, and so, that's when I got really close with Jim Brown when he was there shooting that movie. But I think it wasn't 100% accurate, but it was the closest. It was the closest.
Yeah, I know we got guys like that on the team.
Yeah, exactly.
Who was the superstar guy that you were who was the most diva guy? Diva's probably a negative word to use, but when we think of the prime times or the Michael Irvin.
Joe Horn. I mean, his nickname was Hollywood.
That's so he was on that shit. He was on that wide receiver shit.
It's a good story because he got picked up by the Chiefs, played a little bit, and then as a free agent he came to New Orleans and no one knew who he was. He balled out, and so he was always Hollywood, but he earned it. He earned it. The one where he had the cell phone. Mm-hmm. He had the cell phone. Yeah,
he did that in the celebration, right?
Yeah. He had the cell phone in the goalpost, and he came and pulled it out.
That shit is crazy. Would you ever get into coaching or anything now?
I have. So if the right situation came, I coached some college kids in China. It was cool.
Oh shit!
I coached teams.
There's football players in China.
Yeah, I know.
There's Chinese football players.
There are. When I got there wasn't, but now there are. So we coach these kids.
Are you saying that you're responsible for Chinese football?
I am.
I respect that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I have a lot to do with it.
That's beautiful.
And so it was a job where I got to travel, and it was 2 weeks, and then take them to Sweden to play in a tournament. And then I coached some kids in Tijuana. I like international coaching because you make a bigger effect on the kids, and because you're teaching them an American game, and it's less time consuming, and it's fun.
It's fun because you're like, it's almost like these kids aren't, we come in a culture of entitlement now, even with athletes, right? And to be able to, I'm sure, teach someone a new sport that you're so passionate about, it kind of brings it back to why you did it in the first place.
Exactly. And they're college kids, and so like they're Chinese, so they're super smart. And teaching them the game.
Are you trying to say all Chinese people are
I mean, this means that they value they value intelligence. They value intelligence. And so so they were coming as these intellectuals trying to learn this game of football, and they learned the game like this. Like I could put in NFL type stuff and they could pick it up.
Wow.
The hard part was when we got them on the field and I had to teach them, the defensive guys, when the ball snapped, you have to go that way. Because the linebackers, when the ball is snapped, they start backpedaling.
Right.
So I just the idea of the game where you have to be aggressive and you have to go attack, that took a little bit of time to try to teach them, but the X's and O's, they picked it up quick.
Why did you never get into because I feel like you got a great personality, and I feel like I said, culturally you're fucking huge. There's some really shitty dudes doing football commentary and getting paid handsomely for it that used to play football that were never that good. Like, I don't know how the fuck Matt Hasselbeck's brother talks about being a quarterback. Tim Hasselbeck. This motherfucker was horrible. Trent Dilfer was fucking horrible. Anyway.
They sat in a lot of meetings, so they know what to do.
But did you ever think of taking that career path?
I did. And I dabbled in it a little bit. For the past 7 years, I've been doing some stuff for Texas. I do the pregame show and a postgame show.
Oh, nice.
So I did a little bit, and I even got invited up to Bristol and to do some stuff at ESPN, but it's too much. You sit there all day.
Well, you live in LA, man. Sports Center's right here.
It's too much. Like all the study and it's too much. I like to come in and coach and teach what I know, but having to watch film and talk about what everyone's doing, it's too much to be prepared to do a good job. So I decided.
What are your thoughts currently on Texas and its football program? And I think obviously the football program's seen better days.
Yeah, I mean we've struggled. The past couple of years have been a little bit better. We just hired Sark,
right.
Who was at SC, and I think a great offensive mind. I think going through struggling with alcoholism and humbled him.
Yeah,
and so. And then he spent some time with Coach Saban, so I'm excited. I think he's ready to shine, and Texas is ready to get back on top. So we got a great running back from Arizona.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Bijan Robinson. He was a freshman last year. He was amazing. So
yeah,
we're off to a good start.
Are you the greatest Texas Longhorn football player of all time?
I have the most records.
I was going to say it's got to be you, and the only other name I can think of is Vince Young.
Earl Campbell.
Earl Campbell. Fuck.
Yeah.
Yes, that was
So I think it's different. I think
you played 4 years too.
Yeah, Vince. I think if Vince would have played another year, he definitely would be he'd be the best. But even what he did in the Rose Bowl.
Oh, the Rose Bowl was legendary.
I mean, that's gonna go down as the best performance by a college football player ever.
That was legend, and that's almost like I always look at that game as like when LeBron beat the Warriors.
Yes.
Because USC back then was like the dream team. They had Lendell White and Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart. It was like
2 Heisman Trophy winners on
what the fuck is going on here? Yeah, it's crazy. By the way, Lendell White's a wild dude. Met him in person. Crazy guy. Yeah, I think when we think of college football, Vince Young coming to the NFL, he won Rookie of the Year. And then, man, I feel like the NFL, I feel like Jeff Fisher did him dirty, man.
You mentioned it earlier about running backs and longevity. It's so much running backs, any position, but quarterbacks, running backs, it's fit. It's just, do you have a good fit with the system? Do you have a good fit with the head coach? If there's a good fit, you can play forever.
Yeah, I feel like Vince Young could have maybe went to anywhere. Okay, I feel like Jeff Fisher was hard on him, man. Like,
so the story is that the owner from Houston, and that's where VY is from, said we're drafting him, and Coach Fisher was like, no, I don't want him. They bumped heads, and so he kind of held that against Vince his whole career,
which was trash.
This is trash to me. Like young players in the NFL, college kids, coaches have such a pivotal role in their lives, and I've seen coaches ruin young men. Who
do you think right now is an example of that you feel like is like, fuck, you're just in the wrong place?
That's a good question. It's probably a quarterback.
I would say Sam Darnold would be the first person that comes to mind, just because he's probably had some of the worst coaching. I don't know. That Adam Gase was fucking horrible.
Adam Gase is bad. Is bad. Yeah, I think Drew Luck.
Drew Luck.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Drew Luck. I mean, I saw him play in college.
He was great in college.
I saw him play in college. He's got an arm. He's got so much talent. It's just him finding the right coach and the right system. Because he seems like the kind of player who really will put the work in, will study.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, I think that the Cardinals are a perfect example of why the coach matters. It's like they literally like they hired that guy, and they're like, "Yo, you need your core." Like, you know, it's a fit thing. It's like
it's everything. I'm telling you. If you look at Belichick and Brady. I mean, that's the best example. And I think, you know, when Brady went to Tampa early in the year.
What did you notice? Yeah, it was kind of dicey.
It was kind of dicey.
Right? And Bruce Arians don't give a fuck. He'll say some shit in a press conference that got everyone talking like, are they beefing? What the fuck is going on in Tampa? Yes. But they got on the same page.
They worked it out. Exactly.
And I think that's probably the most talented offensive team Peyton Manning's ever had. You could say Wes Welker, Randy Moss, but like top to bottom.
When you play Madden, all the receivers got stars. They all got stars.
And then his running backs are crazy.
Two of them
are crazy. Yeah, and LaShawn McCoy's like the third guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's wild. Well, look, I appreciate you for coming through. Anything else you want to promote while you're here, man?
Do my podcast. So I just started a podcast.
Oh shit!
It's called Curious Questions with Ricky Williams, and one of the things I got into like in the middle of my career was astrology. And so I bring people on, I look at their astrology chart, and then I just ask them questions based off of what I see. So
astrology, when you say this, because I'm not an astrology guy, so you got to help educate me. This is kind of like this is not like your Scorpio. It's like, that. Yeah, so that. So I lean on the belief that I don't know about that shit is what I'm saying.
Yes.
I don't know if it's bullshit. I mean, people say, "Oh, you're an Aquarius. This means," I'm like, "Does it?"
Yeah.
How do you know? But with that being said, give me a breakdown of astrology and why you're so passionate about it, because it's a very interesting thing to be passionate about.
Yeah. So when I retired in 2004, I just left everything.
Yeah.
And right before I retired, I realized that everything in my life had been built on me being a football player, and I gave all that up. And so I was lost, and I met this lady, and she heard I was a football player, and so she got curious about my astrology, and so I gave her my information, and she looked at the chart. And it's this strange lady I just met. And she looked at my chart, and we had this conversation, and based off my chart, I just felt like this woman knows me better than my closest friends.
Right.
And so I just got really curious, and it just gave me a lot of clarity and direction in a time where I was lost. And so I got curious and just started studying it. And the more I studied, I just started to notice, wow, there's just some crazy connections going on. And the more I studied, I just started to notice more crazy connections. And then I just started talking to people about their charts, and people got something out of it. And so I just kept doing it.
So your podcast, you look at people's charts, and based on that, you can kind of hit them with some
questions, some interesting questions.
Wow.
Yeah. So an example, and I don't like. There's a whole chart. It's not just being an Aquarius. There's a whole bunch of other stuff going on. But like if in general, right? If I had an Aquarius on, I would talk about that. For Aquarius, a lot of it has to do with learning to not care what other people think.
Okay. So, I've mastered that.
Yeah, exactly. And so I would ask questions about stories, because I want the listeners, because when someone says they're an Aquarius, it doesn't really describe you. It describes the dramas that you're going to experience in life. And the dramas that Aquarians experience is the drama of being an outsider.
Okay.
And learning how to be comfortable thinking for yourself. That whole process and how it looks for everyone is going to be different.
That's interesting.
Like a lot of times with an Aquarius, and probably 80% of them, this works. Because the Aquarius is about questioning authority. And so typically, right, Aquarius, one of the parents has a difficult time with the Aquarian.
I question authority my whole life.
Yeah.
I'm always butting heads with bosses. Like, what the fuck did this motherfucker got us doing over here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
Yes.
Damn. When you left football for those years, everyone was surprised, caught off, like, you were what, like 5 years, 6 years in the league?
I was 5 years in.
And you leave football, I think a lot of people, the perception was you turned into like this hippie guy, right?
I did.
Right. So you turned into this hippie guy. You learn about Aquarius and astrology and shit. Was there anything else spiritual that you went through during that time that helped shape you?
Yoga, meditation, holistic healing, like all of that. All of it came in that time period. And it surprised me. I didn't know I was a hippie until I ended up in this town in Australia called Byron Bay, and I just felt
ended up there.
So it's kind of funny. I mean, it's kind of funny where
I just ended up in Australia.
I had this
teleported over there.
I had a friend who right after I retired, she said she was traveling to Samoa.
Right.
And so I was like, shit, I don't got nothing to do. Let me go with you. And so we went to Samoa, and then we went to Fiji, and then she started tripping. So I was like, bye. And
like tripping on hallucinogenics, or just freaking out on you?
Just acting like Anyways, and so I was like, I don't need this. And I was like, okay, what am I gonna do now? I'm in the middle of the Pacific, and then I was like, oh shit, Australia is like really close, and I want to go back there because I had a good time. And so I flew back to Sydney, hung out in Sydney for a couple of days, and then I got this idea of this town called Byron Bay that I always wanted to go to. And I never really been on a Greyhound except from San Diego to El Centro. And so and in Australia, the Greyhound is like, everybody travels in a Greyhound. So I took a Greyhound from Sydney to this town in Byron Bay. And I thought I'd be there for a couple of days because I wanted to photograph a lighthouse that was there. And ended up staying there for a couple of months. And I learned there that I was a hippie.
Wow.
And then from there on, I came back and started doing hippie stuff. I became a vegetarian, started doing yoga.
Are you still vegetarian?
No, not anymore.
You gotta eat meat, man.
After I retired, I moved back to Texas, and it's too hard.
Yeah, with that barbecue.
Yeah.
Some of that barbecue in Texas, man. I had some pork belly that was like life changing a couple weeks ago. I was like, why can't they make it like that in California?
Yeah.
It's just not. So now you're back to eating meat.
Yes.
We always Mike Tyson always describes how he found like DMT.
Yeah.
Did you ever get into any of the hallucinogenic side of things?
Ayahuasca, yeah.
So ayahuasca is something you did ayahuasca? I want to. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I really want to do it.
Yeah, it's an experience.
I hear you got to have a shaman and like.
It's helpful. I think it's better if you have a shaman, and I say do it at least.
How many times have you done it?
I've done it 7 times. I say do it at least 4 times, because the first time a lot of times is just getting your bearings, but you got to do it a couple times to really.
Did you do it? Like, did you go to Costa Rica, or where were you at?
I did it. I did it in Southern California. There's a shaman from Hawaii that he would come here every year for 6 months, and he would do pretty much every weekend. He would do a Friday, Saturday.
Wow.
And so I did it with him a couple of times. I have another friend in Topanga who has ceremonies at his house. I did it a couple of times, but I would love to go to the Amazon and do it. I heard it's hardcore there, but I want to have that experience.
I had a friend of mine who did it, who was addicted to cocaine and, had a issue with, sleeping with every woman he met and gambled like a crazy person. And he did 2 days straight, and it like changed his life. He said it was like doing 30 years of therapy.
It shows you stuff. But the truth is you have to be ready to
like, you got to want to see that.
You got to be ready to see it. But right. It shows you stuff.
Do you remember the craziest thing that you got out of it, or that you saw while you were on ayahuasca? Because I'm really curious into trying it.
So for me, I'm more kinesthetic, so it was more the feeling of it, and it's when you drink the drink, like the experience was, you can feel it like going into your stomach and like pulling like stuff out of your body, and then most people purge. And so when you go to ayahuasca, you sit down in your spot and they give you like a bucket
to puke.
They call it purging because it's not really puking.
Because you're not supposed to eat.
You're not supposed to eat
going into
day.
it.
You're not supposed to, and so it's stuff like it's coming out of your mouth, it's coming out of your eyes, sometimes it's coming out of your ears.
Did that happen to you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I had like, I don't know if it was past life stuff, but I had images of being like a Native American warrior, and having to choose between going to war and going to train with the shaman, And that's kind of how my life has kind of been, you know, where I did the warrior football player thing.
But then,
and now I'm kind of moving towards the shaman.
Wow. Yeah. Someone, my friend said he said there was a lady, like a voice, her, whatever he was saying, right? And he was like, there was like trauma that I had as a child. I don't even remember, but it was holding me down without me even knowing it. And he was like, it was almost like they committed surgery on me. Yeah. And they cut it out of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That shit's crazy. Did you hear like a lady or like, cause I've heard that multiple times from people that there's like, you know, something that's talking you through it or like.
So I haven't heard a lady, but you know, for me, it's an ayahuasca, an animal will come. Like a wolf came one time, and a white rhino came another time.
Wow.
But you know, it's kind of that same state that you experience when you daydream or even sometimes a night dream.
Yeah.
You know, that's and it shows you stuff.
Did it change you?
It did. You know, but I've been doing this work for a long time, like meditation, like doing a lot of retreats.
You ain't new to this. You're true to this.
I'm not. Yeah, exactly. And so
it's in you. It ain't on you.
Exactly.
Sir.
So when it comes up, it's like, okay. This is what's next. This is what I'm moving through.
Right. That's fucking wild, man.
Yeah, you got to do it, man.
I know. I need to. One of my friends has someone in Malibu that does it.
Yeah.
But I want to do it like, so make sure I'm with the right person.
I mean, the group you do it with is extremely important.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah. Well, look, thank you for coming through.
Of course, man.
Your podcast. How many episodes have you done?
Number 5 is releasing number 5 tomorrow.
Who's it with?
Bethany Cosentino. She's singer, part of Best Coast.
Oh, okay, for sure. Well, check out the podcast. It's called Curious Questions with Ricky Williams.
Yeah.
You gotta go to Austin and get Rogan, man.
Yeah, I mean, we reached out to him, so we're working on it.
I mean, listen, if he wants to tap in with the King of Austin, he's got to hit you up, man.
Exactly.
They got to put your statue next to Vince Young's statue, and then, I mean,
I say Austin is the only town in America that has statues of 2 potheads, me and Willie Nelson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Willie Nelson. Do you ever smoke with Willie?
I have.
Fire.
Yeah.
Do you ever smoke with Snoop?
I have.
Me too. I've only done Snoop. Oh, wait, and have you ever met Wiz?
I haven't met Wiz.
We'll make that happen.
Please.
Yeah.
Please. Yeah. He's a legend.
I think I've hit all the bucket list rappers. I just haven't smoked with like Willie Nelson, or I smoked with one of the Marley brothers, which is cool.
Oh wow, I haven't even done that yet.
Or one of his sons, Stephen Marley. I smoked with him in Boise, Idaho.
Stephen, man, he got so much soul, man. That dude is.
Yeah, they had this big ass like monster jar on the bus of just the craziest weed, and it was like, you got a Bob Marley tattoo, right?
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, and it was like, okay, I smoked with a Marley, man. I'm chilling.
That's
crazy. By the way, rest in peace to Bunny Whaler. That's how we're gonna end the podcast. Yeah. Ricky Williams, man. Go check his podcast out. Thanks for your time, bro.
Yeah, thanks for having me.